Uh, so let's start the roundtable and hear from you. What do you think about this proposal? You can raise your hand and I can call on you, giving each person a turn to share a few opening words. When I call on you, please unmute yourself and speak up. You have about 30 seconds, as Suzanne was telling us. And you can post comments in the chat at any time. For this first go around, please allow each person to speak their mind without interruption or discussion. And to avoid taking up the whole period in Q&A, questions will be answered in chat. In the next round, we'll open member discussions for the member topics that rise to the top. Also, this session is meant to give Opalco leadership an opportunity to hear from its members before voting on this rate proposal. If you're not an Opalco member, please feel free to listen in. So I'm going to call on the first hand I saw pop up, and that is Paul Hendrickson. Let me go ahead and ask to unmute.
Brian, would you repeat the question?
He hasn't asked it yet.
So I didn't have a question. I just said I don't really need to introduce myself. I would need more than 30 seconds to share my reaction to this proposal. You say. Okay. Did you hear me, Ryan?
I heard you needed more than 30 seconds and it cut out.
Yeah, okay. So I do need more than 30 seconds. I'm Paul Hendrickson from Lopez Island. I've been a Opalco member since 1978. So I would like a little bit more time to comment on this proposal at some point.
Awesome. The next one, Tessa, or excuse me if I butcher your last name, Ormenyi.
Good job. I want to echo what Paul said. I'd love to have some more time to comment. In 30 seconds, I will try to say that I'm a residential electrician on Orcas Island. I also install solar. I see this proposed rate change as directly attacking local businesses and local tradespeople like me and my ability to live here and to afford to live here. And I think it's ridiculous. Thank you.
The next is John Devan.
Please take your hand down after you.
Devon, actually. Sorry.
Devon, sorry about that.
Suzanne, I spoke over you. What was that?
Sorry, I was just asking people to take their hand down after they've spoken this first round, just so we can.
Okay. My thought is that we need to preserve the incentive for people to build more solar. And I don't know how the numbers work out. I would have expected a part of the argument here to be the case of, what's the typical payback for a system? And I haven't seen that in any of the materials. So I think a proposal that, reduces the payback of someone installing a system is a bad plan, and we should find another way to pay for the grid access.
Awesome, thank you. Next hand is Karen Gilbert.
Hi, I'm Karen Gilbert. I live on Lopez Island, and I have a rooftop solar set up that Rain Shadow put in some years ago, a few years ago, and we are looking at adding to our, we would like to double our power generation and put in some batteries as part of our disaster planning, as well as wanting to decrease our carbon footprint and to contribute to, our county's power security. And I was really surprised when I read that we are not, that Opalco is having trouble paying for the grid operations. And so I have concern about the financial health of this cooperative. So I really just want to learn more. And I do think that we need to continue to incentivize people to put in solar generation.
Thank you, Karen. You're at your time. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Yeah, that's fine.
Next is Susan Bauer.
Hi, everybody. I'm on Orcas. I'm a
member generator. And I have two questions, or I think two topics I hope you will address. Are member generators as a sector of energy production more costly than, say, the Opalco community solar projects? And then two, does Opalco forecast diminished effect on the adoption of new solar arrays as a result of this new tariff?
Thank you, Sue. That's your time. Thank you.
Next, I have Anne Marie Shanks.
Hi, thank you for an opportunity to comment. I've been with Opalco for 33 years, and we participate in community solar as well as having solar panels. We did that for the planet, for our grandchildren, and for future generations. And I really would like to see more strengthening of the planning for sustainable energy. I'm concerned that the way Opalco is framing this issue is divisive in the community. I think you're pitting solar generating people against non-solar generating people with the language that you're using and the way you're positioning the issues. Numerous studies have shown that reducing net metering payments reduces solar economic viability for homeowners.
Anne Marie, I'm sorry, that's your time. You're at 45 seconds.
Thank you.
We're going to have more time to discuss this in the second half.
Next is Scott Finley.
Yeah, hi, Scott from Lopez Island and a member of Transition Lopez. I am also an owner of an electric car, but I'm not an owner generator. So I was shocked, as Ryan was, to find in the first year I owned my car, I went to renew my tabs and I had an extra $150 tacked on there. That was a penalty for converting to electric. That acted as, would have acted as a disincentive for me. But, and that is my concern about this. I believe that we should incentivize the behavior that we want to encourage and discourage the behavior that we want to discourage.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Hey, Krista, before the next one, will you put up the poll about your relationship with solar? I think we have a lot of people that can have a story to tell about that. Thank you.
Next, we have Andrew Nichols.
Hi, everyone. Andrew Nichols here on Lopez Island. I moved out here to the San Juan Islands 5 years ago, and one of the reasons why I moved out here is because I wanted to become a member generator. And so within the next couple of months, I'm going to be getting solar on my house. I feel really strongly about member generation. I feel really strongly about building resilience and energy independence for the islands. I think that we should be encouraging that from every single member possible. We need to prevent things like January's power outage, where it wasn't, anything on the islands. It was our connection to the mainland. We need to build more resilience. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Next, Jim Hooper.
Good afternoon, good evening. I'm Jim Hooper, live on San Juan Island. I didn't fully understand the annual excess generation provision in the incentives. Now, in general, my opinion is that existing members should not be unduly burdened with solar incentives. So I fall in the camp of people more interested in rolling back the incentives so that other energy users don't have to pay for some of those incentives.
Awesome. Thank you. Carla, you're next.
Hi, can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
My name's Carla Thomas. I live on Orcas. We just got solar panels last year. We were shocked to hear of this new fee. I think that this action will curtail private investment in solar. If Opalco needs more money, why don't you raise the service fee for everybody? And we're going to opt out. That's it.
Thank you. Next is Chris Thomerson.
Hello, I'm on Orcas Island. I very much believe we need more solar. And I also think to get more solar installed, we need to change the incentive. I don't consider return on investment or other future payback as a motivator. I'm much more concerned about being part of the solution and not part of the problem. Hence, I have little interest in the subsidized production credit. I'm very much influenced by making the installation affordable. I want to see an easy on-ramp. I either switch it up, low interest, long-term payment on the electric monthly bill. So I'm fine with reducing the subsidy. I want you to move away from future profit of a solar system.
Thank you, Chris.
Easy on-ramp.
Next, we have Chom Grayson.
Hi, thank you. I'm Chom Grayson from Lopez Island. I have actually prepared some written comments, which I just shared in the chat. I just wanted to say that we may have better alternatives to the current proposed solutions and to proposed rates, and is presented in the written comments as some ideas to consider. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. And then the last hand I see at the moment is Thomas Baldwin. There we go.
Thank you. We're from Orcas Island, and we have a small rooftop array. We put this up because we feel that we have a moral obligation to deal with climate change. And it was not because of any kind of a financial return. And I think that's the way it should be. And thank you.
Okay, and
I
then
see
we have
Philip Sherborne raising a hand, and I see a couple of hands that are not. They're being like old school raised. We need to find them.
Oh.
I see Matthew Nelson and Philip Sherborne.
When you click the little icon, it puts you up into the front, like in a physical line. So if I'm missing the actual physical hand up, I'm sorry. I apologize. Let's see. Who was next?
I think Matthew Nelson.
Let's see. Where is Matthew at?
Right here. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Matt Nelson. I live on Orcas and I'm a member generator. I am opposed to this proposed rate change and possible change in net metering. And I think we should investigate ways of generating the revenue that's needed in other ways, which I submitted in written comments yesterday. Thank you.
Awesome. And then I've got Chris Grecian. There we go.
Hi, I just wanted to add to the conversation to encourage Apalco to simultaneously consider in a comprehensive way other cross subsidies. For example, reducing subsidies associated with customers that are on really small islands that are served by Apalco-owned submarine cables that have high depreciation expenses, or other ways that Apalco rates may be cross-subsidizing numbers. And if we're going to do it for solar, we should think comprehensively. Thanks.
I see Philip Sherborne has had his hand up. If you could wave your hand again, Philip, so we can see you. There he is.
There we go. You should be good to go. Oh, wait. There we go.
Right. Hi, I'm Phil Sherburne from Decatur Island. And I really think that conversion from fossil fuels to solar and other renewables is the most important issue in the United States. And it should be the most important issue to any power company, including Opalco. So I think the fairness issues that they have tried to raise around dealing with solar incentives is really a red herring. It's a value question. And the values, I think, ought to be on the side of getting to renewable as quickly as possible.
Thank you. I also see Frederick Perez raising his hand.
I'm opposed to anything that would require Apalco to go off the grid. The use of solar power is wonderful as it is, but it is not the end all to everything. There are better solutions for the problem. And to do that, you have to be on the grid. So anyhow, that's my thought on this. I'm a thermodynamicist. I'm a mechanical engineer, been working at this for 60 years. So I think I know what I'm talking about. Thank you.
Okay, next hand up I see is Charles Anderson.
Thank you for the time to talk to you. So I've been listening to all of you, and it's rare that I can say that I actually agree with all of you. I mean, the methodology that you put forward in terms of rate changes is not an incentive to new solar production. On the other hand, it's totally valid that we pay for part of the grid. The grid is our ability to share the resources that we're willing to invest in with our whole community. And so I want to make a proposal that there may be other methods, and I'm going to suggest a specific one, that we form a fund to capitalize individual solar farms, solar production by individuals, that we provide loans and impact investing. in
Charles, I'm
our
sorry,
own
you're
community.
out of time. Can you complete your comment in the chat?
I would be glad to, Suzanne. Hello,
Sorry.
Suzanne. I haven't
Hi.
seen you in 30 years.
Well, thank you. I'm sorry to cut you off. We got to try and get everybody. I appreciate your voice. I see Stephanie Rosenblatt, or the person in Stephanie Rosenblatt's window, raising their hand. You're muted. Stephanie Rosenblatt person, you are muted. There you go.
Hi, am I unmuted?
Yes.
Okay, I was going to sing, but no. The reason I'm here is Stephanie's indisposed at the moment, but we invested originally when we moved to Orcas Island in the solar farm. I believe it's on Decatur Island. It's the photograph that's behind you. We're retired. I'm an artist. And so it was a big investment for us. And I don't understand now if we are being penalized for that investment, which was very dear to us at the time.
Looks like Sharon and Mike.
Yep, got Sharon and Mike. Let me do the button there.
Hi, Sharon Abreu and Michael Hurwitz on Orcas Island. Just to say that we're opposed to this particular change. We would like to see solar incentivized in every possible way. An easier on-ramp would be great, but we also don't think that the tariff should be changed in a way that would negatively affect solar installations. Thank you.
We've heard from a lot of people, but there are a lot we haven't heard from. I would love to. Here's one. I think, well, Paul's got a thumbs up. That's not a hand up. Good job using your reaction icons. All right. Scott Perryman, are you raising your hand, or is that just your Bitmoji raising its hand?
I have Brett Bartmasser.
Okay, let's go with Brett.
Go ahead, Brett. Still showing Brett as muted. Let me see.
Yeah, Brett, did you want to speak? It's your turn. Well, let's come back to Brett. Looks like Bruce Robinson is ready to go.
Okay, Bruce.
Yeah, this is Bruce. Hi, Ryan. I have a question about our upcoming community solar project that's going to be happening on San Juan. Is this disincentivization for having solar going to affect participation in that project? Like most people here, I am totally behind solar. We have an array. I'm not so concerned about maybe not making up our investment quickly, but I am very interested in seeing the production on the islands increase. So
thank you, Bruce.
I'm curious. Yep.
All right, we have Brett. He's back. Oh, still muted. Brett, sorry, you're still muted. Krista, can you unmute Brett?
The only thing we could do is hit ask to unmute, and then it should pop something up on his screen that says, would you like, the host would like you to unmute.
But why, I think you're gonna have to type a comment because we're not getting your sound. Sorry, thank you.
Jump over to Michael Pickett.
Yes, thanks. I'm a solar customer in a sense. We put in a solar array a couple of years ago, and the primary motivation was to do something good for the community and for the environment. And I think the board ought to go back and look at this again, because the optics are pretty bad. That in effect, Opalco is penalizing people who have invested in solar for whatever reason. It doesn't seem to me to be a fair approach to recovering the cost of your infrastructure, particularly by people who use less power, because less of Opalco's power, and therefore shouldn't share probably.
Thank you, Michael.
evenly.
Thank you,
Okay.
sorry.
Yeah, sure.
Okay,
Timothy Dwyer, did I pronounce that right?
Correct. And this is my wife, Megan Cook, and we are member generators on San Juan Island. And we just wanted to say that we think Opalco needs to be very careful about how they phrase this, because it actually looks like from the press release that one, this is already a done deal, and two, that it pits two different factions within Opalco membership together, or against each other. So I'd actually like us to look at ways of possibly, I don't know, exploring maybe, if at all possible, monetizing the carbon credits that we might be able to generate, or look for other alternatives for finding ways to make up the shortfall. Thank you.
Awesome, thanks. Suzanne, do you see any more hands up?
I don't think so. I'm still kind of flummoxed by Scott Perryman's Bitmoji because it has a hand up, but I don't think he has a question. No, I think
That is
we're
my
good.
emoji.
Okay, this is perfect timing because we have 25 minutes left to have an open discussion here. And the results of the poll that we came in on, the top 3 things that people were most interested in discussing tonight. Number 1 was prioritizing local energy. The second one was removing barriers to rooftop solar. And the third one was affordability. So let's start with prioritizing local energy. And Krista, will you please put up the poll question about the subsidy and also the tariff? If you can do those, maybe you have to do one at a time. Those 2 questions would probably be good for this discussion. So please take the poll, but at the same time, this is going to be a little tricky. We have 78 people in the room, but I want to invite you to talk amongst yourselves about what it means to you to prioritize local energy. And I want to be sure that people share the space. We'll have like 10 minutes to talk about this topic, and then we'll go on to removing barriers to rooftop solar. So great, I see some hands up. Ryan, if you want to
I will
just
just go ahead and
please take the poll.
I will unmute the hands that are up as it pops in. Let's see. I've got Hillary and Chris. Let me unmute you guys.
So the topic right now, again, is prioritizing local energy resilience.
So Suzanne, can I just interrupt you for 1 second? That I was going to be able to have an option to be able to bring up my issues. And my issue is that I think the board could look at how they set the pay rates and look at what your costs are for running Opalco. I think it's been framed a little oddly tonight. So I'd appreciate having some discussion about that, because it's impossible to find out how that happens and what the actual pay scale is for folks who work for Opalco, especially the director. So I would love to see more about that and more transparency. Thank you.
Okay, I'm happy to talk with you about that, but that is not our topic tonight. So prioritizing local energy resilience. If you are interested in that conversation, raise your hand. And Ryan, are you going to unmute one at a time or several people so we can have cross?
I'll just do several people. So if you put your hands up, if you have something to add to that portion, I'll just go through and unmute everyone that wants to chime in on that. I think that's going to be the most organized way to do this. I wish our physical meetings had this many attendees. That would have been fantastic. Would have filled up the whole Orcas hotel. But let me go ahead. Let me get Justin here. Bruce Dunlop is unmuted. Chris Wolf, if you want to be unmuted, I just click that little button there, and you guys should be golden.
Okay, a quick comment. Local energy. One of the things I think is really interesting is if you read the OPALCO 2020 annual report on accomplishments, it talks about the challenges of getting land for community solar. And it says that they're going to do everything they can to get local generation renewables. But then it also says, and this is a quote, if we still need to develop additional resources to meet the mandates and ensure a reliable, and that just popped up in front of me, it's hard to read. 1 second, the poll just jumped up in front of me. Ensure a reliable and clean power supply, OPALCO will build utility scale renewable projects and or look for projects in the region to invest in. These projects will be paid for through borrowing and will affect member rates. So the translation, if I read that, if we don't invest in local generation, OPALCO is going to go out and purchase generation renewables from the mainland to accomplish the same thing. And the members are going to pay for it anyway, but it's not going to be local. Thank you.
And I've got Bruce Charles Anderson. I just clicked on that. I just got Chom, and I'll do Chris here.
I'll go next if that's okay. You know, I think if we look at net metering overall and where it's played out in other parts of the country, particularly California and Hawaii, when you take net metering to its extension, when everybody has solar power and nobody's buying any kilowatt hours from OPALCO, they're just trading them back and forth, then somehow you have to pay for the infrastructure. I'm not sure that this is the best way, but net metering as it has been is really too good to be sustainable. And so we really need to be thinking of how we move to the next step. The cautions are, we want more people to invest in solar. I mean, we put $40,000 into our system. It has a 12 or 15-year payback. It got a lot worse because there were so many other people thought it was a good idea and did it too. And so the state incentives were reduced. That's kind of the way it goes. And this proposal will push the return on investment, out another year or so, although all of us who've already invested can opt out of it. So it doesn't really affect us that significantly. But I think OPALCO and our membership really need to be looking, how do we incentivize the continued adoption of solar and make it reasonable? There was one commenter that said, it's not so much how much you save on power every year, it's that big giant upfront cost. And if there's a way to provide really low interest loans so that you put the solar in, you spend the money, but it doesn't really cost you anything because your power savings eventually cover the loan payment in time. And if it's 5 years or 10 years or 15 years, it doesn't really make that much difference to a lot of us. But it gives us what we want. The ironic thing with this tariff is we put a solar system at the Port of Lopez some years ago and sized it to match our loads. The port then redid all of the airport lighting and generated a huge efficiency gain. And now the port uses only a fraction of the power that is generated, and most of it goes into the grid. And this proposal will actually result in a big increase in revenue every year for the port, because the power that we produce in excess is going to be compensated at a much higher rate than it is today. So I think the port wants to jump on this tariff as soon as possible, whereas many of the rest of us are going to opt out and accept that in 2028 we move to the new tariff. the framing of this tariff as a fairness and subsidizing some members versus others is pretty much a PR faceplant. That's really, whether that's actually true or not, it's a really poor way of phrasing it and putting the issue out. And it's really more of a collective issue for the cooperative. Is we want everyone to have solar. When they do, how are we going to fix the wires when they break and pay for all the equipment? And that's a reasonable discussion that needs to be had, and we have to figure out a way to do it. And just on kilowatt hour charges won't work if we have a huge number of people that are invested in solar. So it's an issue that needs to be figured out. Maybe this is the best one. I just think the way it was has been presented and talked about is unfortunate. Anyway, thank you.
Okay, we have about 4 minutes left for this topic, so please craft your comments, give everyone some time to speak.
Let's see, you got Charles, you are unmuted.
So thank you very much. So Bruce's comments are just fabulous. And there's a difference between the way this is presented. I think we all understand that Opalco's infrastructure needs support and can't be ignored. I mean, if we produce all the power in the world locally and don't have the Opalco infrastructure, that it's meaningless. However, the optics of all this is not supportive of building an infrastructure, a diverse infrastructure in our community of multiple solar sites. I mean, we personally have supported the Opalco's solar sites, but the real answer is that this is diverse in our community. And so what I'd like to propose is specifically the development of a fund that is an impact investment fund that not only Opalco, maybe a portion of revenues, but especially the community, a philanthropic community, can invest in for return, modest return, to provide a fund to fund the infrastructure, the diverse infrastructure in our community, to develop more and more solar sites and not suppress them, because that's the problem we're dealing with right now. Is through the production revenue site approach, we are not recognizing the incredible power that is produced by lots of individuals who have, through mostly wonderful spirit, have invested in our community. So we need to divide the two questions. What's fair for Opalco, what needs to keep the grid, and also how can we produce a fund to empower the individual to contribute their own power to that. So that's my comments. Thank you.
Thanks, Charles. Krista, can you please put up the poll that says what types of local energy resilience are most important to you?
I've got Chom and Chris. Let's do Chom here. Let's see. Chom, you are unmuted.
You. Opalco clearly states that improving local energy resiliency and also investing in more local and mainland renewables, these are part of Opalco's goals. And because the cost of carbon pollution is not internalized into the cost of energy that we pay, so subsidy is considered a good tool to make local renewable energy happen. We're investing in a public good here. So I think the framing of subsidy or painting renewable energy as a burden, it's just not very helpful and also divisive. So I think I agree with Bruce on the framing of it. So I really hope that we all can work together to really meet the goals of improving local energy resiliency and also meeting other objectives too. Let's say if revenue is a problem, cross-subsidization is a problem. Let's tackle those, but not let's, pitch one group of members against others. Let's work on this together and be very clear about what we want to achieve. Thank you.
Thanks. We're right about at 10 minutes. Chris has been waiting. Let's hear from Chris and then go on to our next topic, which is removing barriers to rooftop solar. And then maybe people have some great ideas. So go ahead, Chris.
Thanks, Suzanne. I'll be quick. I would just like to invite everyone to take a look at the Rain Shadow Solar website where we have put our comments, and we included a table on cross subsidies and the comparison of the rooftop solar subsidy compared to many other subsidies that exist in the OPALCO framework. And it's important to understand that subsidies can be there for a good reason, and that we definitely feel that OPALCO inappropriately characterizes solar generators as a burden on the rest of the membership is really a fallacy. Solar generators are an investment for our future.
All right, so we're going to move on to the second topic, which was removing barriers to rooftop solar. And Krista, if you could run the rooftop value and the future concerns polls during this conversation, we'll get started. Who'd like to talk about removing barriers to rooftop solar?
I am looking through the list. I'm not seeing any hands.
Okay, well, we heard from Charles Anderson. He had an idea about removing barriers for rooftop solar. So thank you for that, Charles. Any other comments from anybody about removing barriers from rooftop solar? Let's go on to the topic of affordability then. And if we have more time at the end, we can loop back around to the first topic.
We got John Devon, hand popped up.
If we have a goal of increasing the amount of rooftop solar, it would be interesting for why can't OPALCO identify the houses that are best situated, right? If we want to maximize generation, someone should do the work with the map where are the best houses, and maybe those are the people we could approach with some plan to get them to install it.
And then I see Anne-Marie Shanks.
Yes, I just wanted to say that I think it's really important for us to be looking at opportunities where we're not creating barriers for low-income people, for people in rental that have rental facilities and things like that, that if we want to move forward, we have to be able to focus across the financial spectrum. I'm very concerned that the proposal that you have put forward, at least the one I saw from September, where you're not going to allow members to bank their energy savings each month, will really create incredible barriers for people who are looking at their investment as a way to move forward. And I see that as just a real hindrance to bringing everybody into the picture. Given the cost of property in the San Juans, I think we need to do everything we possibly can to make this as accessible as we can to people. I'm concerned that we're not looking at the future and where we need to be to really have an impact on climate change. Thank you.
All right, I'm not seeing any other hands. What was the next topic again, Suzanne?
Affordability. So that was the third most important topic on the poll that we took at the beginning.
Gotcha.
So what are your concerns about affordability? What are your ideas? And we're talking about affordability of your power bill. If you want to also address affordability of renewables, that is also fine. We did have a few people speak up about affordability, and if anybody wants to start a discussion, this is your moment.
Paul.
Okay, so I should have just said this from the beginning, but this relates to affordability. I appreciate that any business like Opalco needs to generate more revenue than they expend. And I understand that because of our small membership, fixed costs are higher per capita than maybe any other power generator around the nation. But I want to kind of piggyback on some other comments about the way this proposal is worded, basically implying that member generators don't, their fair share of the costs, because it discounts or overlooks the fact that member generators have spent tens of thousands of dollars to install solar panels. So that's an investment that they have made for a variety of reasons, but certainly with the hope that federal, state, and local incentives would eventually help pay for those. And I think some have also looked at it as an investment that would, in time, provide some dividends for them. Member generators also help to stabilize the power grid, provide energy in downtimes, minimizing carbon footprint, helping with global climate, and any number of things. So I just want to emphasize what appears to be the lack of appreciation for people that have put up a lot of their own funds to support the grid, the whole Opalco grid. I appreciate everything that Opalco's doing. I appreciate all the board members and all of that. And I don't want that to be a harsh criticism, but I think you need to realize it does not look good. And that's all I have.
I've got John again.
Hi, two ideas on the affordability topic. Given the geographical realities of electricity in the San Juans, what's gone into like getting state funds to support the unique nature of the grid, or even national funds? It's an approach, and certainly I have no idea what the numbers would be, but you could invent a pricing scheme with income-based rebates or property value rebates or something that would make people that can't afford the rates be able to get electricity.
Chom? Chom, you there?
Okay, sorry. I thought I was unmuted and then I was muted again. Okay. On the issue of affordability, I just wanted to draw some attention to the issues currently we are facing, where full-time residents with high usage annually are subsidizing part-timers who may have pretty high peak load, but over the year their kilowatt hour consumption is quite low compared to their peak demand. So that's one cross subsidization that could lead to full-time residents paying more than their fair share. And another one is that the monthly charge right now is a fixed rate, regardless of the sizes of your house. So what happens here is that, even though large houses have more of a requirement on the system and therefore incur more costs, they pay the same monthly rate as small houses. So, these two issues could perhaps be more be addressed through a proxy demand charge. Right now, we do have a demand charge. I don't know if we still have it anymore, but we used to, and it's flat. It's flat across all sizes of homes. It would be really good to have a proxy demand charge based on maximum consumption. Could be daily. I mean, ideally, during 15-minute interval, which is how it's done for the TOU rate. But if we don't have TOU meters for all customers, then at least we can use like a proxy for demand charge and use that to allocate the fixed cost among different members who impose different requirements on the load. And that would be a way to try to recover more of the fixed costs in a fair manner without imposing burdens on small users, so that we can make it more affordable for people. But I also understand that there are some low-income households that may not have very efficient homes and therefore may have pretty high electric bills. And we should have low-income programs to address those group of members in particular. But in general, it would be really good to allocate more of the fixed costs based on the burden that people impose on the system. So large houses should pay more if they have more demand. Anyway, this is also included in the comments that I submitted to the link that I pasted above. Thank you.
Thank you. So we're getting up to 6 o'clock. If we promised an hour-long meeting, if people need to check out, we understand. We'll stay on for a little while longer if the conversation wants to continue. Krista, will you run the closing poll so that we can at least get people's impressions before they do leave? And looks like there's still a few more people who want to speak unless the hands are just stuck up there.
Showing Charles Anderson and Justin Wolf. Let me unmute Charles here.
So to everyone, I just want to say, for somebody who wanted to be in Glasgow tonight, but couldn't be, it is so wonderful to have a community conversation on these topics. And if this is happening all around the world, it's a real testimony to the movement, to us all taking control of our own energy lives. So thank you. And I just want to personally thank Ryan. God, you're just a great moderator. And Suzanne, I know it's a hard job to be the timekeeper, but thank you so much because you kept us all in line. So thank you all for doing this.
Thank you, Charles.
Justin, go ahead.
Yep, just a quick question. I suspect a number of people sent in comments before this meeting, and I'm just wondering what becomes of those comments. Who reads them? What is there a summary of what was sent?
Yeah, all of the comments that were received.
I can't hear Suzanne.
Can you hear me now? Justin,
I can hear you.
Yeah, well, all of the comments that are collected through this meeting, through replies to our email newsletter, on social media, any comments that we've gotten by phone or email, any comments at all on this topic are being captured, documented, and collated into the November board materials, except for a few members who asked us not to publish their comments. So unless you've done that, you can trust that your comment will be in the written materials for the board to review, as well as all of the comments, questions, chat, and we're transcribing this whole conversation for the board packet as well. So get your reading glasses out.
I see Heather Nicholson's hand up. Go ahead, Heather.
Hi, Ryan. Thank you. Yeah, just a quick question. This meeting's being recorded, so will it be available and when?
Yes, it says recording.
Yeah, it'll be available. Our Zoom platform takes about 72 hours for them to render the recording available to us, and then just staff capacity to get it done. I can't promise you what day it's going to be available, but except that I promise it will be in the board materials.
Heather, go ahead again.
Oh, no, I didn't have any.
Oh, your hand's still up. Okay.
I was trying to lower it.
There we go.
Yeah, and we are also at the same time that we're considering this proposal, trying to prepare our 2022 budget. So there's a lot going on.
So it looks like we've hit our hour mark. If anyone would like to stay on and continue this conversation, I just want to be respectful of everyone's time. Any closing thoughts or last pieces that anyone would like to say before we adjourn?
And I want to encourage anybody who has questions that you still have, or questions that come up later, or conversations that you want clarification on, to email us at communications@opalco.com, and we'll get back to you, and happy to talk with you one-on-one, or if you have other groups that you want us to come visit, we'd love to come and talk with smaller groups. It's a lot easier to have a conversation if you have maybe a smaller group that wants to discuss a piece of this conversation. We'd be glad to do that.
Yeah, it was fantastic seeing this many people join. I mean, we would normally get like 14, 15 back when we did it in person. So it's really cool to see this many people come out for a community conversation like this. I see Beth Helfstein. Go ahead.
It seems to me that it's premature to adopt this rate proposal at this time, given what people have said about the perception and that the lack of understanding of what that does long-term to incentivizing solar production. At the same time, I don't know how OPALCO can reach out to people to participate who are never going to consider rooftop solar or investing in community solar because they simply can't afford it. I think I know Project PAL's need has grown over the years. As the president of the San Juan Island Family Resource Center board of directors, we're helping a lot of people really hit by the pandemic, and keeping costs affordable for people who are struggling here is really important. At the same time, getting off of fossil fuels is really important, and we need to prioritize and incentivize that action as fast as we can. But I think this proposal is premature. Thank you.
I also see I see Joseph Clare. Go ahead.
Hi, thank you. I'm one of those people that are a dual property owner, and I have a rooftop solar system for Seattle City Light. It's a 7 kilowatt system, and their rebate system is kind of on a term, so a 3-year term, and they pay 30.3915 kilowatt hours cents per kilowatt hour, but then it's limited to a 3-year term. And I recognize that is a higher rate than OPALCO's, but then I understand OPALCO's isn't term limited. I think that's a good benefit or a good idea there, because then I can get a payback period that's really reasonable, but it does disincentivize me to have a system that's larger than my annual usage. So there is something to think about that. One of my other comments is, if we do have systems that are greater than our annual usage, how does that impact OPALCO's capital improvement program to build new systems? And are we able to then subsidize OPALCO's capital improvement program? So some things to consider there. I don't quite agree with your analogy of having an electric car and then paying a fee for using that. I do agree that I think that's appropriate, but the way I think about it is, we're providing the concrete to the road, we're providing the power to the grid, and therefore maybe actually providing a subsidy to OPALCO for creating new and larger programs. And I recognize OPALCO's just getting started with community solar as a generator versus just being a consumer by buying from BPA or Puget Sound Energy. Just my thoughts on this, but I appreciate the conversation, and I do look forward to building a
ground-based system. And it's just one of those things I'll consider in terms of, do I build bigger than my annual usage, or do I keep it smaller? And then what is my return on investment type of thing? Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Joseph. And then I have Barbara. Go ahead. You are good to go.
Yeah, hi, this is Barbara Rosencotter from Orcus. And I just want to ask, what is the rush to adopt this a significant new proposal at the November board meeting before we understand the potential ramifications of a proposal that will be in place for several years? Are we incentivizing or disincentivizing with this process? And at the October 21st board meeting, one of the board members stated, "We don't need to rush a solution for a problem that isn't here today." If needed, I can provide which board members made that statement. But I would request that we please slow down, be very thoughtful and careful with any new rate structure. Let's ensure it is sending the right signals and supporting investment in solar installations. So I hope you'll utilize the membership, a lot of knowledge and expertise, and bring us along with any proposed changes. We are a co-op and we are all in this together. I understand the need for looking at how we do this in a way that is financially appropriate, but I think we are trying to rush it when I think we can be a little bit more thoughtful and take a little bit more time. Thank you.
Awesome. And Kim Rice, go ahead.
Hi, I'm in San Diego visiting my daughter and 3 grandkids and trying to hang on for dear life to this conversation, but I agree with so many things that have been said here about this is the last time in the world that we want to do anything to disincentivize solar, especially in the San Juan Islands. I mean, we should be going in the opposite direction and paddling as hard as we possibly can. I've done some volunteer work with Spark Northwest with Solarize campaigns. And for a long time, I've been thinking about sort of wanting to do some work in that area in the San Juan with Opalco, because I also worked with John Blomgren on the community solar installation on Decatur. And, you know, I'm just wildly enthusiastic about it. And so I just wanted to put that out there. Someone earlier in the conversation mentioned something about, gee, we should be identifying the rooftops on the island with good solar potential and going out and making sure that those people understand how well solar works in the San Juan Islands, and, you know, doing everything we can do to make it pencil out for them so that they're incentivized. So I've been giving that some thought, and I just wanted to put that out here in this forum in case there's anybody who's interested in doing work like that as well. Just contact me in the notes and let's put our heads together and see what we can do. We cannot disincentivize adoption of rooftop solar in the San Juan Islands at this particular point in time. It would just be devastating. We need to be doing the opposite.
Awesome. Thanks, Kim. Michael Pickett. Let's see. If I click this, it should
Got
pop
it.
up. Yeah, there
Okay,
you go.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I think it's great that Opalco is doing this. I mean, this is a co-op, and we're all members. Some of us are member generators, which we almost all did to help Opalco and to help our community and to help our world. And it's interesting as I listen to these comments that whereas it would be ideal if San Juan Island were all solar or all wind and self-sufficient, but we have a situation where if we encourage more solar, we make our power company less financially stable. So the more that power is generated by the individuals, the less revenue to Opalco and the infrastructure they've built. So it's a challenge. So I think it's great that the board has chosen to make this an open item to discuss because it's not an easy answer. I've always wondered about solar fields, not just rooftops. We have a lot of ag land. Some of it's would be great to put in solar fields, which are probably less expensive than installing a rooftop. I don't know that. Wind power. After last week, I had a lot of kilowatt hours I could have generated blowing through my house. So there's lots of solutions, lots of opportunities. There've been a lot of great comments today. And I'd encourage the board to slow down, take a look at all the options. Don't make it look like you're picking on people who are providing power through solar, because that's something that is sort of the antithesis of what people are doing today to help cover our terrible environmental situation. Thanks.
Thanks, Mike.
I'm just gonna see if there are any last comments. We're gonna do our very last things here. If you've already had a chance to speak, please step down and let somebody who hasn't spoken have a turn. And we'll take the last couple of people. I see a name we haven't heard from yet, Marcus Verda.
Yeah, thank you. So my name is Marcus Verda. I am Director of Business Development at Western Solar. We're based in Bellingham, but we're actually owned by a co-op member in Friday Harbor. So Western Solar itself has a big interest in solar development in the San Juan Islands. I also actually represent the Washington State Solar Energy Industry Association. So I wanted to just give a really quick comment on WASIA's behalf. And that is that Opalco has traditionally been the strong point, the model utility in Washington State. And we've been so appreciative of your leadership, both in solar adoption, in net metering clarity, and in your adoption of community solar and larger deployment. It would feel like a big opportunity missed to walk away from net metering at this juncture. And we really appreciate and support Opalco and its leadership. And again, I think Christy Royce had mentioned this in the comments, but we would really look to Opalco to continue that leadership as other utilities throughout Washington State consider going away from net metering. If Opalco were to do that, that could have a knock-on effect. And all of the comments today have had a really, been very clear that this is the last time in our planet's history that we should be going away from distributed solar. So I would challenge Opalco to look at other ways to balance its books and to also look at distributed energy resources really as an opportunity for resiliency, to lower dependence on mainland power, and to lower the cost of electricity for its members. And thank you all for being engaged in this. It's really inspiring to see everyone so interested in this.
Ryan, you want to bring us home?
Do we want to get Chris's last comments here?
I guess if they're brief, we've heard quite a bit from Chris tonight. I'm trying to share the air, but yeah, go ahead, Chris.
Oh, great. This is Chris Greason, not Chris Wolf, so a little bit less from me. I just wanted to echo what Mark had just said, and also the comments that Bruce had as well. I recognize that Opalco's grid provides a really valuable service for customer generators, serving as an ideal infinite battery. And this is a valuable service that needs to be paid for ultimately. At the same time, more renewable energy, more energy efficiency, electric vehicles, other measures, these are all really urgent needs in the face of a climate emergency. And Opalco needs to be leaders in this field, pioneering so that other co-ops can learn how to transition to scaled up renewables.
Awesome. Thank you. And thank everybody for coming in tonight. This has been just absolutely fantastic to hear everyone's thoughts and opinions, collecting some data on where everyone's standing at. And I really, really appreciate everyone just coming in tonight and discussing this. It's been absolutely fantastic.
Foster, you want to bring us home?
I do. I just wanted to thank everybody. I mean, really good dialogue. It takes everything I have not to answer questions that are raised. But I really do. We do appreciate your thoughts and wanted to hear them first and foremost. Everything you said, Chris, is a good wrap up. really appreciate that. Energy efficiency is something we embrace. We do the same thing with EVs, EV buses. We have a project on Lopez. We're working together with the school over there, as well as our community solar. I do want to just do a shout out. We're going to continue doing all the right stuff because it's important for all of us. And that's the reason that we're here in the islands. And I mean, low income is the one I was really struggling with. That is, I am so proud of the fact that we actually got a low income grant to put a portion of our new solar project, community solar project over on San Juan, $1 million grant. Now those funds are going to go right into the power that's generated, go right into our low income programs. So we're really looking out after our membership, and we'll continue to do so. Even the one behind me is the Decatur solar project that we did. I think it was like a 10% goes back into our low income program. So we're really walking the walk, and we really want to be the front runner out there in utilities that are doing the right thing, looking at carbon reduction, looking at different ways that we can accomplish everything that we're talking about. By the way, Charlie Anderson's not here, and I wish he was. We are actually put in for a loan through RUS. It's a member relending program, which is really neat. If you haven't seen it on the RESP loans that we have, we're thinking about getting this new loan if we get it approved, and then we'll open it up to solar and battery installations. That would be wonderful, right? So capital is always the hardest thing to come by when you're embracing solar and batteries. And if we could have established that member relending program, is very similar to what Charlie Anderson brought up about how do we incentivize and help our membership embrace it. So we're always looking on the next horizon. We're always looking for the next grant funding opportunity that we can put in place. Like again, the project behind me had a $1 million grant for the batteries as well. And we're going to be keeping our eyes open for that, so we can get more incentives to help our membership out, embrace solar, batteries, and well, you name it, energy efficiency. Anyway, love to hear from everybody. I know the board is going to be real appreciative of everyone's comments. I know I am. It's really it's a great bookmark for us, and we're going to continue these roundtables as long as we have some good support for the membership. I think these Zoom meetings have worked out really, really well, and hopefully we can continue these discussions, because we're not going to be over with. These things are going to go on as the utility industry changes dramatically, and we need to hear from our members, because we're the brightest membership that you could ever imagine, and we need to work together kind of going through these changes. Anyway, thanks again for everybody for joining us this evening.